turn the sound up. Turn the lights off. Sit alone in a dark room. This is
abstract and dark, atmospheric and overwrought with sadness and desperation. These are the adjectives used to describe Eastern horror in its many facets. Rather than mutilate a story with heavy-handed guts and gore, Asian horror relies on subtle tweaks. These tweaks distort our reality and teleport us to a world just like our own, but slightly more askew. A slow burn leads our minds into a spiraling descent deep into the unforgiving wildfires of our own imaginations. They have us fearing the dark shadows our minds have custom fit to all our sensory outlets. They have us staring into the darkness behind our seats, wondering if what we see upon the screen has crossed over to the corporeal and now awaits to devour what last strands of sanity remain in our rapidly deteriorating cephalic synapses. These effects and more are what we hope to broadcast with this video. Our goal is to show you just how terrifyingly powerful Japanese creepypastas can be. We hope to do this by making the line between reality and horror extremely blurry, and by leading your mind to realms of insanity and to the very brink of your threshold for psychological fears.
Coin locker babies, also known as coin-operated locker babies, is a type of child abuse found primarily in Japan and China. In these cases, unwanted babies are left in public lockers, with the presumption that such lockers are regularly checked by attendants, and the infants will be found quickly. Unlike an official baby hatch that often includes a sensor to alert caregivers, many children are found dead in these lockers. Between 1980 and 1990, there were a reported 191 cases of infants that died in coin-operated lockers, which represent about 6% of all infanticides during that period. Hence the birth of the coin locker baby urban legend.
3 parallel futons. And that is such an interesting title to begin with, because you hear this title and you're like, what the hell could be scary about 3 floating or 3 parallel or just 3 futons? And that's where the story begins. You start learning about these futons right away. And if you don't know what I mean by futon, I literally mean like the types of beds you see in Japan that are just like a mattress on the floor. They're pretty much like a roll-out mattress. And 3 parallel means like they're all next to each other lined up in a row. So you're like, what the hell could be scary about that? I remember as soon as I read this title, I was thinking, oh boy, this one's not going to be scary. And then I read it and I was like, wow, this is like one of the best ones I've ever read. So it's an account from a user on Nichan, which is Japan's version of 4chan that actually came out first, the original Chan channel, and they're discussing a recent event that happened in their life. So this one could be based on reality. It's up to you. It's how you want to perceive it. I don't know if we really want to put this in the realm of creepypastas, but that's what it's listed as. A girl tells her story on this website about how she had spent the night out drinking with her friends, college-age girl, having a good time, normal thing to do. She gets home pretty late. She said around midnight, 1 a.m., around that time. And she said as soon as she walks in the door, she's a bit surprised because she sees her mom and her dad and her older sister all have their futons down in the living room, and they're lined up in 3 rows, 3 futons for 3 people, and they're sleeping down in the living room. And she's like, what the heck are they doing here? Like, why is everybody down here sleeping? You know, they each have their own individual bedrooms. Why would they be here? And, you know, just confusion. As soon as she walks in, she's like, you know, did something happen in their rooms? Like, you know, your parents and your older sister, who's obviously older than 20, aren't having some kind of like sleepover or, you know, camping downstairs to make marshmallows or something like that. So it's very odd. It's very odd behavior. It's not something that's normally done in a Japanese house anyway, like everybody moving their futon to a different part of the house to sleep together. There are giant bedrooms sometimes where everybody in the house sleeps together, but moving them down to the living room would be quite odd. So right away she's disturbed by that. So then she also realizes her younger brother, who seems to be around the age of like 13, junior high school age, isn't down there sleeping with them. So she figures, you know what, I'll go up and ask him why he's in his room and they've all moved downstairs. So she goes up there, and as soon as she gets to his room, he's sitting up in bed. And she said he's sitting up in bed and he's looking at the door behind her and pointing with his mouth open, like as if he's trying to scream, but nothing's coming out of his mouth, and he looks like really frightened. And so she walks forward to ask him, like, she's like, what's up? What are you upset about? Like, what are you pointing to? Like, why are you not speaking? And why are mom and dad and my older sister down in the living room sleeping in their futons? All questions that are just like flowing through her mind super fast. She's super confused. And she says as soon as she gets closer to him, he suddenly lets out this huge scream. Just like finally the silence of his voice is broken. And it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever felt this before, but if you get super scared, if you get like super ultra scared, maybe you felt this in a dream or a nightmare you've had, where you try to scream and you're so scared you can't, like you actually have lost your voice, and then finally the air catches up with what you're trying to do and this scream bursts out of your mouth. That's what happens with this kid, and the scream just bursts out of his mouth, frightens the heck out of her, and you know, his finger's still pointing behind her, so she spins around to see what the heck he's pointing at, and she turns around and looks, and it's all three family members are in their futons with the duvets over top. That's kind of like the blankets, and they're floating and rotating in air, and blood is like spilling out of their mouth and their eyes and their ears, almost like as if you've seen in space when blood or any kind of liquid comes out of a person and it kind of floats in this weird kind of like orb type shape and like spheres through the lack of gravity. And it's really creepy looking, and she describes this is what she sees, like spinning like as if they were, you know, floating with no gravity in space, and blood coming out of them and all these weird angles and everything. And then she said she turns back around to see her brother, and now blood is just pouring out of his open screaming mouth, and blood is pouring out of his eyes, and he's, you know, missing his eyes, and there's just these black holes in his face. And she's so frightened she just passes out, right? When she wakes up, she's back in her bedroom. She goes downstairs. She can't figure out if it was a nightmare or if it really happened. She asks her family, like, why were you sleeping down in the living room the night before? And they're like, oh, we don't know what you're talking about. That's not what we did last night. We all slept in our bedrooms. And she said, I guess I'm not going to be going out as much anymore and go out late night drinking, because either I had a bad dream or something messed with me after I did that. So it just ends like that, and you're just left wondering, like, what the hell happened? I don't know, there's something really squishy and creepy about the situation she's put in that is later given no explanation other than she's either going crazy or she's in the midst of a nightmare that's so real that she's mixing it up with reality, or maybe it's in her intoxication that she's kind of blurred the two together, or maybe her house was really haunted with some sort of entity showing her these horrific pictures and images. We will never know, and that's what makes that story so great, I think.
The Red Room. The Red Room story is an internet legend about a pop-up which appears on the victim's computer. The image simply shows a red door, and a recorded voice asks, "Do you like?" Even if the pop-up is closed, it will repeatedly reappear until the voice finally completes the question. Do you like the Red Room? Those who have seen the pop-up are later found dead by unexplained means, their walls painted red in their own blood. The legend began with a flash animation of a young boy being cursed after encountering the pop-up, but gained notoriety when it was found that the schoolgirl who committed the Sasebo slashings in 2004
There's only one known
had the
documented
video
case that has been
bookmarked.
filmed of the Red Room, and what happens to one when they follow through with the ritual. The following images and video are of a Gaijin college student who performed the entire task of going through to find the origin of the Red Room. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi everybody. I'd like to show you a really